Welcome to Tech Charged, Turn Down for What podcast live, the first introductory episode. We've got Martin Meek from Martin Rebuilds. You got Jace Kraft Miller, the legend of Ford fame, worldwide international man of mystery, and myself, Chris Bow from Bow Family EV. Welcome to the chat. We are now live on X and on YouTube. The chat is also live, so what you guys put in the chat will appear for us to see somewhere here. We are learning as we go. Hey, Josh Turner, good to see you. I think we can even throw that on there. I'm not a big fan of that StreamYard logo being there, but curious if the comments will show up. But yeah, how are you fellas doing?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Well.
Nice. Well, we'll start off, I think, waiting to see what kind of comments we have in there. I'm going to have some postings on Facebook to let people know that we're live. And also on X, I'll share that we are live. And if you fellas want to kick off, I'm not sure which one of you wants to start and introduce yourselves. And
yeah, I'll jump in. I kind of want to give a little bit of introduction to the spinoff here. You know, we are obviously a subsidiary, if you want to put it that way, of Turn Down for What. But this is when I got with Jace a few weeks ago and pulled you in, Chris, to we wanted to bring together a new a live stream. You know, this obviously is live, and talk about tech related EV. And not necessarily EV as in electric vehicle necessarily, but anything electric related. And we wanted to bring it into something that was more grit, more get your hands on it. So whether we talk about, something that's a electric lawnmower, an electric truck, anything electric can come up. It doesn't really matter, but we wanted to make it where people could come away from this and really have something that they felt like they learned or didn't know about or knew about. So that was one of those conversations, like, yeah, let's do this. So Jason, I know we talked about it. I love the one that you and Joe had together. It really got into some good things. And I thought, let's figure out a way to make this new again and be able to continue that good stuff that you guys were doing over on your podcast. So.
Yeah, no, I love it. Happy to be here. I think it's awesome to have the ability to do this live and have people ask questions. And, I think that's a big key part of, the EV, not just electric vehicles even, but like you said, mowers or whatever it is, snow blowers, like it could be anything. So I think, there's a lot of questions out there and a lot of people that, have, from basic questions, like you said, to, more advanced questions. And I think, we kind of got the perfect group of people to be able to kind of help on both ends, so I think that's really exciting. So I'm happy to be here.
it'll be cool as we kind of learn along the way. Like we can see right now, we've got 4 folks joining in. We got Josh leaving his comments in the YouTube chat. I did just post on the Facebook groups to let them know that we're going live, and then I'll kick it over on X. On X, it's already live on the Turn Down for What, but then I'll reshare that on my personal X as well. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know, Jace, if you want to kind of talk about what you've been up to, and we can kind of go around the horn and kind of talk about what the latest and greatest stuff is that we've been doing.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, today was kind of a fun day, actually. I got the new Ford/Lectron adapter, so that was super exciting. I've been kind of waiting to add that to my collection. I just really wanted that one. I'm not sure why, to be honest with you, but that was the last one that I kind of needed to complete my Infinity Stone, so to speak. So.
Which ones do you have? You have the original Tesla Ford one.
Yeah, yep. We have 2 of those, obviously, with the 2 Lightnings, and then the OG A to Z. We have that, and then we have the that one was recalled, so they replaced that with the Typhoon model, and so we have that, and then now we have the Ford/Electron. So yeah, so we have them all, so to speak, and I like having some extras. Oh, there you go.
Do you have that one yet?
Is that a Tesla Tap Mini?
Yeah, basically A to Z, but yeah.
Yeah, we have a Tesla Tap Mini,
Love
I think
that
60 amp.
It has a key. It has a
Oh,
key
nice.
and a lock, and I was pumped to see that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really nice. I
Now
like that a lot.
that's just AC, right? That's just your AC
Yeah, that's just for, like
adapter
destination.
destination.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had a deal going where you get both, so I just grabbed both.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, and then today we also grabbed a Ego electric mower. So super exciting day. It's stuff, it's happening. I think honestly though, that was our last gas thing period that we were really trying to replace, unless you can include like appliances here at the house. But yeah, that was our last you know gas thing that we had to replace. So super exciting day. And other than that, did a couple road trips recently. That was awesome. We're getting ready to do a big road trip to West Virginia here in 3 weeks, 2 weeks ish. We're going down to ski, and that will be super exciting because, as we know, West Virginia is full of infrastructure, right? So, but they are getting better, and we're going up to the top of Snowshoe Mountain, and there is actually some chargers up there. So I think we'll be okay. There's actually a Ford dealership that we're going to use that's about, I'd say, 45 minutes to an hour outside of the ski resort, and it's already we've charged at a few of those already, and I think that'll be really exciting. We'll of course tweet it out and showcase it and do all the things.
I have not had as many opportunities as you had to use the Ford ones. I was able to see it when I went to Vegas. There was country something Ford out there that was a dealer that had a couple of them. Still waiting on the local dealers to get them. So looking forward to seeing more of those Ford chargers. I know we always see Robert from Ford is always posting. I think there's a lot more of them out where you live, Jace.
Yeah, in Michigan in particular, I think just happens, I think, to be one of the first, with the connections and closeness to Ford, I think that they just kind of happen to put a lot of in there first. But it covers up north, it really covers some areas that were desperately needed. So it's actually a really needed thing. And it was really good that they did that. So.
Yeah, I had that experience in Minnesota last year. We had a stretch where we're pulling a boat. So we had, 110 miles. There was a stretch where I didn't have it. And there was a Ford dealer right there in the middle of Minnesota that put it in. And what's interesting about those Ford ones, you have to be cautious because it said 180 kilowatts. But I think that depends on the voltage of your car. I think if you're an 800 volt system, you can get that. We never saw over 110, which I was thankful for. But, you have to really.
Was it those ready units?
I'm trying to remember. They all kind of look the same. There's one up south of Kansas City at a Ford dealer, and it's the same way. It's about 120, 130, and it says 200 on it, and we never get the full. But I'm okay with that. I'm just happy to have it.
Sure.
Yeah, that new Electron one is interesting. Functionally, I think they all, whether it's A to Z, which is the first one I had, I've got both A to Zs. I've got the original and the newest. And then the Tesla one, and now the new one, which is really Electron, but they've done some special modifications to it, so it has an extra safety interlock there that Ford requested. And then I don't know if you have it with you, Jace, but it's got a cool little Ford logo. Which
I was
going to ask you to grab it. I'm really curious the ergonomic difference because a lot of guys, I've used all three, but I've only used the Electron branded, not the Ford one.
Yeah.
And to me, the A to Z so far is the most ergonomic, easy to just plug in, click. But I haven't used the new Ford Electron one. I'm curious if the ergonomics is as good on that as it is on the A to Z.
Yeah, I think the shape on it is a little different. And I don't think it's one button. We'll see when Jace gets here, but I still think it's a 2-button system. But functionally,
that was the thing that threw me is I like ergonomics, and as much as I'm charging, we might have 20 or 30 charges on a trip. I don't like that Ford one has that awkward reach up behind and try to pull in fact, I have my Ford one. Well, maybe I do.
Against your chest for that Tesla Ford original one. A to Z is just one nice button.
That was the thing I didn't like about the most about this one. So all right, so we got the original.
Yeah, there you go.
We've got the annoying. It's even annoying now.
Kind of like have to do an underhanded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've got the cord in, so you're trying to do it. Yeah, so it's fine. It works, and they're fine. They work. But yeah, and then the Typhoon, so the new A to Z. So we've got that. This one's probably, yeah, it's probably the heaviest out of all of them. So,
The
and then
Typhoon
here's
or the
the new,
Lexon?
the Typhoon. Yeah, it's probably the
Yeah, I
heaviest by
like it.
far.
I like having one button that's just like a double press. So one
Yep.
releases the top and the bottom releases the NACS.
That is really nice. So yeah, this one's still kind of the 2 press, but at the very least, you have the like a new locking mechanism down here, so you're not like doing the awkward like can I find it, sort of thing.
So
So
where's the double
yeah, it's
press
nice.
at? Walk us through that, Jace. Where do you press both places?
I think you can just press both like at the same time right here
Okay. So on an
with one
index finger,
hand
one with
as
your thumb,
opposed
and
to
you're good.
having to like, reach that thing down here. So it's sort of
That's
similar
cool.
to this, except for you press the bottom trigger as well instead of just the
Okay.
top.
Yeah,
So
and
really
it's
not any
the
less ergonomic because you're grabbing it naturally with your
Mhm.
hand like that anyway.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty similar. And I actually think a lot of people are like, wow, it's way bigger, but I kind of, it gives you a couple extra inches, to plug this short cord in. So, I mean, I think honestly, a couple extra inches is never a bad thing. So there we go.
I was wondering who's gonna. That's what she said, right? Who's gonna drop it first?
Yeah.
I
Who's
need to
gonna go there?
Yeah.
I need to queue up the that's what she said and just have that on standby for.
Yeah. Boom.
But I think interesting. Steve's a big fan. Just chimed in about the A to Z, and I agree. I'm a big fan of the A to Z. I really like the single button design where you press it to one level to release, and then press it to the bottom level to release both. And I've just always been a fan of the A to Z. But it's funny because the one thing that none of them have solved, and maybe it's a Ford thing, or I don't even know if there is a way to solve it, is anybody can unplug it. And so like when I did my travel down to Southern California and I stopped at Harris Ranch on the first stop, we then went inside for lunch. And this is so bad. I was so paranoid. I didn't want to use my Typhoon Pro because it's my favorite adapter. So I put on my old A to Z because I'm like, if someone steals my old A to Z, one, they may see it and be like, oh, I'm not going to take that one. And two, if they do, it's fine as they stole the old one. And then when I'm at a stop where I'm standing close enough to see the truck, I would use the Typhoon Pro. So it's that is the one drawback is they haven't figured out a way to lock any of these into place yet.
Right. And that's the thing that bothers me too, is that, it's a couple $100 adapter when they first come out and they were gold forever. So what do you do? I like to see that this little destination charger from A to Z has that lock. And I was hoping that when I got that, and for you, we'll show you everybody again. So here's the destination charger. You've got your NACS on this side, of course, obviously your J1772, but on the top, there's this, I haven't used it yet, but you got a key and a lock. So I think this would lock it where you cannot take this loose.
You can't squeeze it.
The big thing. It physically, it's locked into place. So once you put it in, you're not going to be able to disconnect it from either side. I haven't tried that yet, but so far, that's my favorite, because overnight at a hotel, I mean, it's easy to walk up. People like to unplug you just for the sake of unplugging you. And if it's locked, I don't know that they will be able to. I don't know about from the Ford side, though. We'll have to see how that is, because I know you push the button and it releases. So time will tell.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think it would. Yeah, it would release. Yeah.
So better than.
But I guess with this one, the one
away from the charger.
Yeah, the one I guess aspect about this one is at least as far as somebody at least taking it, they could, stop the charging, I guess, but they couldn't maybe. I mean, they wouldn't see that extra switch down below to know to hold this. Same with sort of the old one to get it out of the NACS thing. You know what I'm saying?
What goes through my mind, and Ford would hate this if they heard it. Let's take an 1/8 inch drill bit and drill a hole crossways underneath there so you can put a lock through the bottom. Now, I'm not suggesting you go drilling holes in your adapter.
It's not a terrible idea, actually.
Not legal advice, not investment advice. What's all the disclaimers?
No. Don't try this at home. But there's gonna be a lot of things that you see me do on the channel that's don't try this at home. So
yeah, this will be an interesting aspect because we're gonna go the full range of Chris, who's like, man, I ain't touching that. I'm not putting anything. I'm not drilling. I'm not screwdrivering. I'm not Allen wrenching. And then you got Martin, who's got his entire cab off the truck and taking it apart. He's drilling and making adapters better. but that's the fun of the conversation, is it'll run the whole gambit. Cass, no doubt, giving us the shout out. I don't know what time it is there. Are you a early sleeper? Because even East Coast, it's only 8:00. But
yeah, 8:19.
Yeah, going to sleep. I don't know. Are you out in Europe somewhere? Maybe it's the middle of the night. Maybe you're partying down in Brazil. I don't know. Where are you? Cass, no doubt. Yeah, we need to find out where Cass is and go party, because I'm not sure what time zone. But there's but yeah, that's the fun of seeing the comments where people come and chime in from, is going to be cool. But yeah, the Detroit. You're in Detroit. That's not even that late. He's in Detroit. That's maybe he's an early riser. See, I'm a sleep in kind of person, Yeah.
Me too.
I wanted to kind of bring up, and you guys have probably been following this for others that haven't seen. If anybody's wondering, where's my adapter? We just talked about adapters for 5 minutes. I'm seeing, if you're able to look up your order number, in the 58,000 range, it's been shipping. Is that what you guys are kind of seeing?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been caught up, to be honest with you, but that makes
I've been
sense.
on there the last couple of days. A lot of Mach-E people and whatever has been about that. So my next adapter is in that 65,000 range. So I'm expecting the next couple of weeks, and I'm really hopeful now that you have the Electron version. I get it, because now I have all three, like you guys.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of like mostly Electron right now, but I saw a couple mixed in that weren't, but yeah, it seems like they've mostly switched over. So hopefully,
life is like a box of chocolates.
Yeah. Yeah, I think now that we kicked off too, we can kind of talk a little bit about, we've had Josh and Jesse have been out. Josh went and I know he's out there listening somewhere, but he took a little sabbatical and had fun at Disney World. And then he took a cruise after that. So while Josh was away, for those who haven't had the opportunity to check out our last episode, I hijacked the podcast, and I did a podcast with my sister. So we talked about, she just traded in her Model X. She had a Model S before that, then a Model X, but it was like a P75. It wasn't, the range wasn't that big to begin with. So when I had my Lightning in the shop for a bit, I got to drive and check out hers. So that is something that I did on my Bow Channel EV. If you guys haven't checked that out on YouTube, I went through and did a walkthrough of her BMW iX, did a drive with it. She was crazy enough to let me do that. And then we talked to her about why she traded it in, and if she had any regrets or what she liked about it. And so be sure to check out those episodes and kind of get the cool stuff going on there. And then Martin, you recently posted a video as well. What did you do on that one?
Yeah, so mine, I don't have it up here queued up like the fancy stuff that Chris just did, but so a couple of videos, and I have to preface this with, anytime you're using Forescan to hack your truck or edit the code that's already there to change some code, you can mess some things up if you're not careful. I've done it a lot. Number one, if you're going to use Forescan to get in and start changing some things, back up your modules first so you can revert back. In fact, I make backups between changes, so that if you've done a bunch of changes that worked and then you do another one and it doesn't, you can just back up one step, kind of like saving your computer every day. But so what we did is we made it to where you can have the cameras come on when you have the blinker on while towing. So if you're towing something, whatever it is, flip your blinker on, your camera comes up for that side, which is really sweet. Now, did that, posted it, got a bunch of people asking, and I actually put the module codes on there that you can use. So go visit my channel or on my YouTube or my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, and you'll see that. The problem with it is we lost all the drive modes. So that first screen when you click home on your Lightning that shows you your drive mode, and I didn't even realize it was gone until like 3 days later. We got a snowstorm here, about 6 inches of snow, which is a lot for Southeast Kansas. And I went to take it out of one pedal drive, and it was gone. There was no, I think I was texting you guys that day, no drive modes. So turns out that's what that was. So I'm working on right now how to get the drive modes and the turn signal camera activated. Haven't figured it out yet, but we will. To me, I haven't put it back. because I like the cameras better than I do use access to the drive modes.
So what happens? I assume you save everything before you change anything, and then you can always reinstall it back. Worst case,
yeah, just revert back.
Pro
Yeah,
tip.
they call it as-built data, which is basically all it is a bunch of ones and zeros and code in the background, but you save a snapshot of your current picture. So if you have how your truck was factory, and keep in mind, in our truck, let's talk just a little bit about the updates and what happens. The over-the-air updates are just a grouping of Ford is updating these modules in your truck. So when you go to the Ford dealer and you say, hey, I don't have, the update where I get Google routing, they have no idea what you're talking about. They only know that this module, and this module shows an update through FDRS, the Ford Diagnostic and Repair System that Ford uses, that the dealers use, which is what I use. And they only know that you have updates available. And they won't just update those for free, by the way. They only update when Ford will pay them to update. So you could write a check and get them to update your truck, or you can just wait on the over-the-air update. So yes, you want to make a backup snapshot of those modules before you start changing things. Because if you're typing in there and it's supposed to have a C and you type an H and you hit upload, guess what? It's broke and you don't know what you did. And you can't remember what character or what letter. So in ForeScan, there's a button at the bottom, revert, save, update, and it will just bring back what was just there. So I can't stress enough, if anybody's going to use ForeScan, you have to back up. Don't neglect that, because you'll get stuck and your truck will be down. And the dealer won't necessarily know how to fix you. They have to just reload all the software, and that's going to cost you money. So
they will charge you. Before I took my trip to Southern California, I was begging for them to update for the Android Automotive, because I wanted that Tesla charging to be in there. And they went through, to your point, Martin. They went and they said, okay, we can update all of these because there's what are the
customer service
CSPs.
There's CSPs in there, so we can update this and this and this. And I can, to your point, also, I can see that there are updated modules. I don't know what, as a technician, he doesn't know what they are. He just sees that there's updates, but those aren't included in a Ford program. So if you want those, it's going to cost you $400 for the tech time for them to do that. Or, every dealer, I'm sure, is different.
Yeah, and it depends on how many modules you have to do.
Yeah.
So when I updated, some of you saw Joe's truck, I've actually got it finished and back to him. I need to finish the editing. Joe's truck took me 13 hours to update because it had every module. He was on like software 4.1. It was really old. But I just as a service for him, I thought, he doesn't even know what he's missing. And I did 3 lightnings that weekend. My 22 was pretty well up to date. It was on like 6.8. So I brought it up, took a couple hours. The 23 took a little longer than that. She was a little further behind, but it was 13 hours to do that. So if you took that truck to the dealer and said, I want this up to date, they're probably going to tell you no, because they don't have time, but it's going to be a couple $1,000s. Most of those dealers are $160 an hour now. So
yeah, I mean, every dealer is going to be different. Your dealer relationship probably comes into play. There's, there's so much. If you get a bad dealer, they just won't even, they won't even want to consider it at all. They might be too busy. They might only have one EV tech that wants
while
to
we're talking about dealers in trouble, I see Michael on there had a question. He said his F-150 shifter won't go in reverse. What does he do? Well, number one, let's make sure the truck is actually coming on. So on your start button, that light needs to be solid green, and you need to have a ready on your dash. If that is flashing, it's not on. It's not ready to go out of reverse. So past that, if the light's on and it still won't come out of reverse, let's make sure that because if it's not on, it could be for a number of reasons. It could be that your phone as a key is not connected, your battery and your remote went dead. There's quite a few things that could happen. Past that, there is a recall on some trucks with the shifter, and Ford will take care of that. Take it in, they'll replace the entire shift module, and that might be the reason. But without having some codes, it's all about those codes, being able to hook a scanner up to it. So I would suggest to a lot of you, if you're interested at all, and Chris, I think you even bought one, get you a little OBD2 Bluetooth reader and throw it in your truck. They're like $25. I use a VPeak. A lot of guys use the OBD link. Throw it in your truck. And if you have something that's acting weird or you don't know, put Car Scanner app on your phone, and it works for Android or iPhone, and just connect those two and find out what the codes are. A lot of times you can just post those codes to a Facebook group or send them to me, and I'll tell you kind of what it's doing. Like the code is just a number, but that number usually means something. And in the background, you can kind of get some help from some of us. That in the Tesla community is massive. There's so many guys that know so much about it. Myself, I've even learning from their community, but we don't have that kind of vast knowledge in the Lightning group as much. So if you guys have questions on some of that stuff, absolutely send them our way. Even now, if anybody on here has a question about their truck, there's something it's doing they don't understand, post it in the chat and we'll try to get to it.
You can find sometimes some good answers on the F-150 groups. There are a lot of guys like normal F-150. We still have a lot of crossover, but obviously there'll be some stuff that they won't be able to answer. But in general, there's
that shifter is the same. In fact,
yeah, exactly.
Didn't know if anybody knows this. You can take the shifter out and you can put a dial knob in out of an Expedition or a
I've
Mach-E.
seen that. I've seen
that.
that.
I'm thinking about it. Our Mach-E is not my favorite part. I thought I would like that dial, but after running it, I'm not a fan. I like the shifter. I want the one on the columns that I want.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I recommend that V-Peak too, man. Yeah, Martin, you recommended that to me, and I had one of the other ones before that, and I really liked the V-Peak because the one that I had before, I don't know the difference on these things. Maybe you can explain it because you're so much better versed with this. But I had one of the more expensive ones, and there was one that would work with car scanner and a better route planner, but it wouldn't work with the car scanner on the Ford truck app. And I had to get a different one that was a CE. It's
the communication protocol in those. Some of them don't have the right pinouts and they're not the same. I find it interesting that V-Peak actually says through a better route planner it has problems, but I've used it tons of times.
I've seen that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And once you told me about the V-Peak, and I just tossed a link. I don't know if that'll show up as clickable or not. Because I bought it off Amazon once Martin mentioned it to me, and it was cheaper. I had previously bought two separate ones, which if anybody's local to the Bay Area and wants one of them, I will give it to you because, but both of them, each individually, were more expensive than the V-Peak, and then the V-Peak does the things that both of those do.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, where were you when I bought these expensive, fancy? I don't remember what the brand name. It's whatever the big brand name is for them.
Yeah. OBD Link is the biggest one. That's the popular one. And they I bought like good, the MX. They have about 4 different ones. And again, it's the communication protocol that how they transfer data. Some of them are more secure. So the V-Peak, it can be hacked. If you get somebody who knows what they're doing driving down the road beside you, it can be hacked. So that's why it's cheaper. But what's the chances? I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to maybe, I don't know. It can happen. But for me, I've got 2 of them. I've had them about 2 years. They've not failed me. So Steve, you can push ARBP with live data through the truck. If you have if you have a CarPlay adapter like a Benai's or a Magic Box, you can run a better route planner on that, and you get basically the same experience as you would on your PC or on your phone. And so I'm not going to say any of them are as good as Google EV routing, because to me that is the best navigation there is. But yeah, you can push that stuff right through. You do have to have the $5 a month premium to connect it.
Yeah, and to your point, I'll see if I can bring this up real quick. I'm still kind of learning, but this is the video from my road trip down to Southern California, and again, this was a recommendation from Martin, and this is me using a better route planner. That's going away from the screen right now, but I used a better route planner. That's what you see on my main screen here. And it gives me all the data. You can see right there as it zooms in. It's giving me my battery temperature. It's giving me my voltage. It's giving me what my state of charge will be. So if you ever want to check out, if you just go to my Bow Family EV channel, 1,000-mile road trip in a Ford Lightning Part 1, the good, the bad, and the great. You'll see exactly what that looks like. This syncs right to my truck using a better route planner, gave me all the live data. I would love for Ford to do this at some point. I thought it was super cool. That was using a better route planner, and that was using that same dongle that you talked about, V-Peak.
Yep. And the better route planner is I used it coming back from Canada this last year, and it worked pretty well. it's a little tweaky on the UI, being able to touch things in the right spot, especially if you're driving it through the Benai's box. But it gives you a lot of functionality. Without the Benai's box, just running it through Android Auto, it's very, very limited. You basically have to pick up your phone to make any changes or any of that, which it does work. But I'll tell you, I took that trip to Canada, and then we turned around and we had a trip to Colorado, which was 2,500 miles. And I ran Benai's on a better route planner the whole way. It does learn your truck's data. So it'll learn what mile per kilowatt hour. For me, I'm getting about 1 to 1.1 pulling a trailer. It learns that data. But none of them compared to a non-towing to the Google route, because it's pretty accurate. It updates live, the Tesla stops, and the preconditioning. So there's only 2 ways to precondition your battery on your navigation: factory forward or Google EV routing. Now, Jace, you can speak to CarPlay because you've probably run it a lot more than I have. I tried it and I wasn't happy, so I went on. But
No, yeah, it's all right. It needs a lot of work. It's still a nice tool to have in general. I mean, now that, we have a better route planner, back when it first launched, that, we didn't really have that quite as like we do now. So, or car scanner data, which is, on the actual screen, which is game changing too. But yeah, it updates live, so that's nice, right? At the very least, you get that, it's connected to your truck, so you're getting the live data. You don't see much other than just, predicted percentage, but I mean, at least you can at least see that, right? It was a little frustrating too when it first launched. There was so they added the percentage and time, but they didn't add the miles to go. They took it away, actually. And so that a lot of people were frustrated by that. Ford has now, since with a OTA update, added the mileage in the instrument cluster. So now that kind of takes care of that, which is nice. So you have the mileage to go to your destination there. But yeah, it's very, you can tell it certain networks and it will ignore you. You can, it's really just sort of like, I find my stops. I might have like 1 or 2 options where I'm going to stop, and then I just navigate to my stops using Apple Maps, and then I'll have to navigate to the next one. So it's just not as seamless as it should be. But
so you don't find yourself using the Ford navigation, you find yourself using an aftermarket app.
Yeah, we've never really used Ford Nav. I mean, I used to use it when they had the trip planner in the app, but I don't do it much in the truck anymore, to be honest. And we use all CarPlay. So a lot of our trips are repetitive. We go to the same places over and over. So we know all the stops, except for maybe the brand new ones, but we know where we could stop and where we're more likely to stop. And if we couldn't make it, we have kind of, a backup. So, but yeah, I don't know about you guys, but for me, even in the coldest of cold, we've really never needed to precondition. That was not the case in our 2021 early Mach-E. But the Lightning seemingly is much better with not preconditioning, honestly, at all. We pretty much usually jump right up to 150, 170, right around
Totally
there.
agree with you there.
Usually we're limited by the charger, if anything.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I took a trip 180 miles in my wife's Mach-E, the 21. It's the GT Performance Edition, so it should be the faster speeds. I pulled in with a 46-degree battery because I have no way to precondition that car right now. The factory connected nav is expired. And even though I pushed all the updates, I don't have Google EV routing. 46-degree battery, I got 44 kilowatts, which I stayed for 20 minutes, which warmed the battery up. I stopped back to that same charger about an hour later, and it was 56 degrees on the battery, and I was able to get 88 kilowatts. The Lightning wouldn't have cared on either one of those.
What's this?
180 and rolled.
What's this cold thing you guys keep talking about out there?
Right.
Out there in Kansas and
Ohio. Oh, it's actually 26 right now, so it's a little warmer than it was. So that's
I have those little gauges on the Lightning instrument cluster that show the motor temperature and the battery temperature. I've never seen them move. I used to question, do these ever move? And apparently where you guys
they
live,
do move. It's pretty rare. It's pretty rare in
Mine's
general that they
been
do move, but
mine's
they do
been
move.
below center. I don't precondition my truck every morning because I drive 13 miles, and I usually leave my wife's car plugged in so she can have it ready. But this every day, it's been about a quarter of an inch to the left. And when I get in the truck, the battery shows me it's 26 degrees. The battery, which I need it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tesla. I know Tesla, at least on the earlier ones, they would not charge under freezing.
It's much more sensitive. In fact, it was funny because I was watching Brandon Flash's video, and he's done a couple really great ones about preconditioning and temperatures, and he shows the battery temperature that it needs to be, and I think it's like 100 and something
0.
degrees for the battery temperature. And I find with the Lightning 80 to 90 degrees, and it's just fine. Like
Yeah.
when I did that, when I left the house,
Even on
I
his
did
new one or the 4680.
I'm not sure if he's done the battery temperatures on this was on the 4680 that I saw it, and it was
Gotcha.
just
Yeah.
showing the dramatic slowed speed by not, doing the precondition. And kind of like you, Jace, I don't use the internal nav because I have so much PTSD and I'm so scarred by EA that that's where it's going to navigate to is an EA, so I don't use it. And when I went from my house in the Bay Area, when I left, it was like 40 degrees, which is as cold as it gets. I mean, 38 to 42 is about as cold as the Bay Area gets in the winter. I did precondition the cabin and all that to get the maximum amount because I have a standard range, like you have a standard range on one of yours, Jace. So, you got to get every bit you can out of that. And there's some hills between the Bay Area and the Central Valley I've got to get over. So I did all the preconditioning, the cabin temperatures, so that I can maximize it. But yeah, I got to the first stop, and it was like, and again, this for those that don't know, the standard range has has a smaller battery pack and same number of modules, but each module is smaller. And so because of that, the pack voltage, the base pack voltage, is lower. And so because of that, that's how much charging speed you're going to get. So with the extended range that Jace has and the extended range that Martin has, they can get, I've seen 193 is the most I've ever seen from somebody, but mine will never get up to that. But I'll get usually in the 160s for that 10-minute bump. And then my two stops that I had going down there, one was like 167. One was all-time record. I hit like 177 down at Santa Ana at the Rove charging stop, which was, they also had the version 4 dispensers, not cabinets, but the dispensers were version 4 down there. And so 177, a new all-time record. I didn't precondition for either of those.
That's your
I
update.
think ours is about the same, which is funny. Ours is like
Yeah, the
183
updates have done that
for a
lately.
truck. Yeah,
Yeah,
ours
they
are
did.
both 2022s though, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But
I have a 22 and a 23, or I'd had a 22, but the updates recently have changed that charge curve considerably, especially at that 10-minute boost. Now, on my 2022, before I got to 6.8, it was 162 kilowatts every time at every Tesla charge. We did 26 charges on our way to South Carolina and back with Joe's truck, and it was 162 to 163 every time. And then I pushed the updates the other day, and now I'm seeing 190. So it's all over the board for different trucks based on what level of update you're on.
They rolled, I think 24, they rolled out that update when they had Electrify Expo out here. Shout out Robert with Ford, who kind of whispered in my ear, like, hey, this is starting in 2024. It's this. They've discovered and learned from the other ones what they could unleash. And then to your point, Martin, they started slowly rolling out those updates over the air, which credit to Ford. And I don't think they nearly championed that as much as they could have. They just kind of let people discover it on their own. They didn't really do a lot of fanfare about it. And maybe themselves, they weren't sure exactly what they would get consistently. But I never used to get those kind of numbers. And now I consistently get in the 160, 170s. And I consistently see 180s, 190s which is great because it originally launched it at 150. And so it's,
Yeah, and it's way over that. I mean, we're seeing 190 for a good 10 minutes, and I've seen it all the way up to 60, 62% before. Now the Mach-E's not that way at all. At least the 21 job.
Yeah, the newer ones are. I remember talking to a Ford engineer, and he's like, "Why'd you decide to get 2 Lightnings?" And I was like, "Well, we loved our Mach-E. We like our Lightnings more. We love our Lightnings more." And he's like, "Well, what was the reason?" I was like, "Well, kind of slow charging." He's like, really? And he was really surprised by that. And he's like, well, you know, the 2024s are so much quicker. And, you know, so I would like to see see a 2024 and really see someone put it through its paces charging wise, because I think it's a lot different now. I just can't speak to it personally, obviously, you know, but I have to say that comparative to our 2021 Mach-E and then comparative to our 2022 Lightnings, both standard range and extended range, the charging experience has been night and day. And
Yeah.
it's not the chargers, because we're using the same chargers for the most part. So, and it's funny you mentioned EA, Chris, because literally like EA here could save your life. You know, like there are areas where, like, there were areas when we got our Mach-E that I could not have gone to northern Michigan without EA at the time. Now it's very different, but at the time, you know, it was crazy. But even our last road trip, you know, to Michigan just 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, we pulled into the turnpike. We tried a Tesla supercharger. It was derated to, I think it was like 62 kilowatts. We're like, dang it. So let's just try EA across the parking lot. So we go to EA across the parking lot, shoot right up to, you know, 175, I think it was, on my standard range. Then coming back home, and 24 hours later, literally just 24 hours later, we come home, we go to the other side of the turnpike at the same exact stops, pull into the EA, it's derated to about 62 kilowatts. We're like, what the heck? Let's go to the superchargers across the lot. We go to the superchargers across the lot, zoop right up to 170. So, I mean, it's you know, it's sometimes you just never quite know, and you know, it is what it is, and oh, what a difference a day makes, you know. So
Right.
I think
I
it's
agree with you on that, Jace. I've been in places where ChargePoint has saved my life. Our Canada trips would not have been possible without
yeah,
the Ivy network in Canada and ChargePoint. And yes, typically ChargePoint is slower. They're 50 to 75
yeah,
kilowatt. But I'll take it to get me where I need to go. The first
yep,
Canada trip was that way for us. The second one, when Tesla opened up, game changer, because there's Canada's full
yeah,
of it too.
yep,
I think California is a little bit different because our percentage of EV ownership is so much higher, and
yeah,
so many people do use the EAs and the EV Goes and get like Volkswagen famously, right, with their free EA charging. I can remember my
yep,
first ever DC fast charging experience was at an EA. It was a 4-station EA in front of a hotel, and it happened to be at a city that was right near a Volkswagen dealer. And I pull up,
mm,
and there are 4 ID4s plugged in, going to 100%, and 2 of them clearly do this every week. Because they
Free money.
literally had a free charging, and they had a whole picnic set up. Man, it was clear this was planned. This is a thing that these two, either friends or family members, they do. And I was on my way back from Sacramento, and I was on a trip that I had made before, but in this case, I had one extra stop in Modesto to drop off a friend, and that was enough to get me to where I didn't think I was going to make it back. And so plugged in, I finally waited for one of them to leave, plugged in, got the red ring of death. I was like, oh, this is great. So then I went to an EV Go, and then the EV Go had problems, and I had to make a couple phone calls and wait. And finally, I got it to connect, and just got enough to make it home so I could plug it in, charge again. But I literally, I for almost a year, I never once plugged in an EA that didn't have a problem. Not once. Like, I did a trip down to Long Beach. Every single stop along the way had a problem. I'll never forget one was out in
Wow.
Santa Clarita, just past Magic Mountain after going over the Grapevine. And I plugged it in, and it said, welcome Jose EV6. And I'm like,
Great.
oh crap. You
oh
know,
boy,
like, my name's not Jose. I don't have an EV6. And
yeah.
I could have just charged it, but I felt bad for Jose. Charging up a Lightning was probably not, not something
That
he'd like
brings up
to.
a point. Something I wanted to bring up tonight that I wanted to talk about. I got a couple things that I'd like to get to, and I don't know how much time you guys have, but we can go
Yeah,
as long as we want here.
we can
I
transition over.
mentioned to you, I mentioned to you, Chris, about a couple weeks ago that I had an experience with. I don't know if you guys have ever charged at a Francis Energy,
Never.
but
We don't have those out here.
No,
they are notoriously. You talk about EA. EA is wonderful. Francis Energy is horrible. You pull in and the whole station's derated. Half of them, the screens are black. It's the worst charging experience you can have. I think you guys, if you saw any of my YouTube videos on our first trip to go get the 23, I pull in, we left with like 4 kilowatts after 20 minutes. It was horrible. So the Francis Energy stop, to me, is a last resort. We actually used one last weekend out by Wichita, Kansas, and it worked. 175 kilowatts, cranked right up. The next day, or the next couple of days, I'm headed about an hour away to pick up some wheels for a truck. I get a notification on my phone from Francis Energy that says you're charging, and it was in Alamogordo, New Mexico. I'm in Pittsburgh, Kansas. I'm not there. And I click the app and it shows you're charging. So I swipe it to stop. $4. I call them, and Francis Energy, you don't get Francis Energy, you get a call center. So I call them, and I was like, hey, somebody's trying to charge my car. It's not me. Cancel it. She said, I can't do anything. I'm just a call center. I'm like, I called Francis Energy. On the call with her, the agent, they started it again. I'm literally looking at my phone and I swipe it to stop again. And then it's another $5 by the time it showed up. And so, and I'm not knocking Francis Energy. I'm just saying somebody stole the RFID card. And that's how it was started at the station, was via that plastic card. And so I said, hey, submit a ticket with the call center. I want to know and she said, I will. Fast forward the next day. I get a text message from this guy, a 918 area code, which is local for Francis Energy. Said, hey, this is such and such from Francis Energy. We noticed that you're trying to charge in Alamogordo, New Mexico. I reactivated your card for you. And I said, no, that's a scam. Stop. And he said, oh, okay. He turned it off. There were 6 charges that over the last couple of days, about $40 or $50 worth that they had charged on my card. It was the same person. So they knew what they were doing. And he reimbursed every one of those and canceled that card. I've never had customer service out of any station like that. And the guy was just texting me. He had my phone number. I thought that was great. So if you're out there and you have those cards, just be diligent to watch your apps, because the theft in this industry is going to start taking off. People are charging on your dime. So pay attention to your account, pay attention to some of those things. But that was
why I use plug and charge, to be honest, all the time. I
told that app. I've never used anything but the app. Now, I don't use plug and charge because we charge so much. I have an account with EA, with Tesla, with EVgo. Francis Energy doesn't offer that. It's just the price is what it is. But yeah, I like to use plug and charge for my wife because she can just plug it in and it works. But we're charging.
We went to Peak and Peak with Justin's extended range. We never travel with Justin's extended range. He puts a ton of miles on his, so we just try to throw road trip miles on mine. And we didn't realize we still had bundle kilowatt hours left for the EA thing. So we had I think we had 38 or so kilowatt hours. So that was great. That was amazing. We got a free trip to ski. Yeah, and we had no idea that it was just sitting there. He's like, it showed it charged our bundle off. What is this? And I'm like, wow, I think it's because we haven't taken your truck in so long. We still had, and we hadn't charged the EA. We sometimes do, sometimes don't. Sometimes it's Pilot, sometimes Tesla, sometimes EVgo. It just depends. And we still had EA stuff left, so that was funny.
So I'm sure everybody is charging. If you're charging much, I want to show you my phone, but this is kind of how I think a lot of they've got the whole folder with with all these different apps in them.
We're the same. We just don't do the subscription because we just don't. We change networks so much, and we don't seemingly road trip enough to really. I know some people are like, "Oh, I'll just do it for 1 month," but it's like one road trip we might use 3 different networks, so it's tough to And sometimes it's like a crapshoot. Like it's a couple miles difference. We're like. Exactly. Yeah.
See, that's for us. I pay for it because I try to do Tesla. Tesla's the cheapest network on us forever.
By far,
it's always the cheapest. So that brings us to something, Chris. If it might be a good time to bring it up, that we've been talking about range and charging networks and all this. I made a post this week on the Lightning owner group about range extenders, because it's something that's been on my mind for a long time. I know a lot of people, especially some of our listeners listen, that I travel a lot towing. I mean, Sergio, there's a few guys that do it probably as much or more or longer trips. and you're going to get 0.8 to 1 mile per kilowatt hour out of a Lightning towing. And so I wanted to know, I have a friend, Patrick, in Florida that is doing, he's a kind of electrical engineer and even more tech than I am. And we're working on a generator or a battery pack to put in the bed of a Lightning to connect it to the truck to be able to have more range. Basically what Tesla has been offering. And before I get into that poll and talk about that, I don't know if any of you guys have heard if Tesla has actually released that for the Cybertruck yet. Has anybody heard that they've shipped one?
No, it hasn't.
And didn't something change just the other day? I forget what it was. It was like a little smaller or something changed on it. I forget what it was.
I think they did have to go a little bit smaller than what was planned originally, anyway.
I was talking to Patrick about that and Tesla's thing, because he still thinks the battery in the bed's the way to go, and I don't disagree. It's if you can figure out how to parallel charge two 400-volt packs or series charge 204-volt packs to get the charge speed up, I think it's a good thing. I don't want to double the range of my truck and then have 2-hour charges. That to me, it's I can do an hour if it's every 4. I'm not going to do 2. So I had a deal worked out with him to put a 40 kilowatt pack in the bed of the Lightning. We were going down there over Christmas to get it, and it didn't work out. But 40 kilowatts, that gets you another 80 miles. I really only another 40 miles when I'm towing. So he was on the fleet side of the Ford, not necessarily Ford sheet, but the fleet offerings from Ford and Chevy and all these different. And he said, hey, I had to call you because I just noticed something. 2025 Lightning Pro, I think fleet price was like 45 grand for an extended range, which is typical of fleet. But it said extended range Lightning, 45, 50 grand, whatever it was. And then to the right, coming fall 2025, range extender. So we all know that they patented, a lot of us know that they patented a range extender and didn't give us a whole lot of information. There was a picture floating a while back about it looked like a toolbox on the bed of the truck that we all think is a range extender. And I think a couple of the more known channels, went into a little bit more detail, but it's all speculation. But this was the first thing that I had seen that was actually, hey, it may be coming to where you have a range extender. So what and it was funny that he told me that same day, because that day is when I had actually posted the poll on the Lightning Owners Group, and I was going to give you guys some of the results from that. It was about 2 options: a big battery in the bed of the truck, or a gas generator. I know that everybody's going to say, well, you can't do that. Well, no, you can't do that. But we're working on a kit to be able to put it together to tie it into the pack that you can run it going down the road. Now, is Ford going to like this? No, hell no. They're going to say, this is not good. But this is not just a couple of yahoos doing this. We actually have been in these trucks. We know what we're doing. So we're going to do it safely. There'll be a lot of testing. First of all, it'll just be for my truck. But I want to know if there's a market for this. So we ran this poll. It was 450 votes. 61% of our viewers said, I don't need it. I like my truck just how it is. There was 20%, about 10% each, that wanted a battery or a generator. And then another 13% or so of the people that said, I would do it, but I'm not willing to risk my warranty over a range extender. So it was interesting to hear that feedback that the vast majority of people, even though we hear it day in and day out, anybody you talk to, what's the first question they ask? Well, how far will it go? How long do you have to charge? Once you own one, that's not really a huge talking point for the majority of us. They like their truck just like it is. So I think a lot of the comments were, I just want it to charge faster. I don't need more battery. And honestly, 260 miles on the highway in the summer, 200 in the winter for an extended range, that's like 3 to 4 hours of driving. I don't know about you guys, but I want to get out for a little bit. If it was 20 or 25 minutes, that would be much better. 45 minutes is what mine does from 10 to 80%, which is okay. That's a lunch. But you know, at 2.5, when I'm doing that towing a trailer, it gets old. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think for towing is what this comment was targeted at, the range extender for towing. We really want to be able to have that. Yeah, and Chris found this, and this is interesting because I don't even know what this is about. You know,
Yeah,
they're talking
so
about two order guides being 122 kilowatt.
yeah, so this was Martin's kind of information made me reach out to some of my contacts. I reached out directly to Ford. Ford didn't have any updated information, but said once the retail stuff. Jace knows how that works, right? Like,
Yeah, I was
hey,
like, how'd that go?
right. But hey, I wanted to ask before the podcast to see if I get some confirmation or some information, and didn't get anything from there. They said as soon as there's retail information released, we will update you guys in the group. And so cool, you know, no worries. Had to ask. And then I reached out to a couple of my dealer contacts and folks that I've been with and said, you know, hey, are you seeing anything on the fleet side? Are you seeing any information? None of them were able to confirm what Martin's guys saw. So I didn't see anything about a range extender. Everybody kind of thought maybe there was some confusion or maybe it was written poorly and they really meant either one of two things. One, that they were talking about the extended range battery, or that they were talking about the fact that Pro and Fleet are the only ones that can get the extended 80 amp onboard AC charger. For those that don't know, every other trim that's not Fleet only gets the 48 amp charger. It's not even an option. But within Fleet, there is an extended dual charger that will get you up to 80 amps AC. So everybody kind of landed with, they think there might have been confusion there. You know, maybe we'll learn something to get all shocked and surprised that there is a range extender. I thought it was odd that, like you said, Martin, it specifically said Q3 or the fall, which nobody saw anywhere. So maybe there's a document these other guys haven't seen yet, you know. But this is the one thing they did share with me, which was interesting, was just said that Job 2 order guide updates that 122 kilowatt hour extended range battery, 99U, as an optional on Pro and standard on Flash. So I don't know if that's going to be, and I did think it was interesting because Pro, again, keep in mind, guys, that nobody has released official things from Ford. So anything that you've seen on a forum or that we're talking about here is, you know, a combination of speculation and rumor and things, you know, screenshots like this. But it was mentioned somewhere on a post that the Pro did not qualify for the 7,500 tax update, tax benefit, which makes me wonder if this 122 kilowatt hour battery is a lower cost LFP. And maybe because it's an LFP, maybe because of the source of the minerals, maybe that doesn't allow Pro to qualify anymore. Although that doesn't make sense from the standpoint.
Or is that a 122 kilowatt battery in the bed on top of the standard? We don't know.
Yeah, that's hard to imagine. That's big.
Yeah, because sort of what they did with the Mach-E, it's, well, why would it be extended range though? Because really Ford went with LFP for standard ranges, not really extended ranges. So maybe it's that is interesting. Huh.
Yeah, and if you just Google 25 Lightning Fleet range extender, you get some information, but they talk about an optional extended range battery pack, but nowhere in anything public is it talking about that fall 2025, you know, third quarter 2025 extended range. I'm gonna do some more digging and see if I can come up with something more on that from the Fleet side. It's obviously not public yet. As far as the public, you can go buy one, but it's at least exciting to know that they're working on something like that. And we know there's a patent. We know Ford knows how to do it. Everybody says you can't charge the truck while you're running down the road, and as designed, that's correct. But
once Martin gets a hold of it,
Ram Charger is going to do it here in just a minute. They're going to have a battery and a motor with a generator on the back of that motor charging a bus bar. That bus bar doesn't care if the power is coming from the battery or if it's coming from the generator. It just feeds a common source. So you should be able to do the same thing with a generator if you tie that directly into the truck. Patrick's truck, he's really good at this. He had a standard range Lightning. He took the pack out. He put an extended range Lightning pack in it, changed the software, and then on his 2022 extended range, he put a 40 kilowatt pack in the bed of the Lightning and tied it in with some big 3M connectors into the high voltage wires. And you have to know what you're doing. This is not for the faint of heart. But it made his truck get almost 500 miles of range because he gets about 2.4, 2.5 with his drive. So, we got to talking more and more about that and going back and forth. I don't really want to carry around a big battery all the time. And if it's not modular enough that you can't take it out. But what I was looking at was like a Winco makes a 19 kilowatt, 35 horse Briggs motor that puts out 220 or 240 volt at 19 kilowatts. If you take your truck down the road and you look at we've talked about the V-Peak and the car scanner, just pull up the PID on your scanner that shows kilowatts being drawn. The Lightnings pull between 30 and 35 kilowatts of power when you're just cruising down the road. It doesn't use all that 500 horse that we have. So if you can add 19 kilowatts back to that, what does that look like? That's going to double your range.
If I do it, it looks like my car exploding is what it looks like, Martin. But if you do it,
there will be some risk, and I can assume some of that before it gets to somebody like you. But
there is a greater than zero risk.
Yeah, no, it's totally a risk. But we build trucks that are rebuilt title. There's no warranty. I'm on my own anyway, so I don't care. But what a good place to start to try to do this. So that range extender that we're talking about is a slide in. We'll make a latch system that clicks into the bed of the truck. We'll have a remote start so you can fire that generator up. You're running down the road. We'll try to get some feedback from the truck so you don't want to start a generator when you're at 100%, and you don't want to run it during certain times. The contactor's got to be closed in the main battery. There's some things that have to happen. So there's some engineering that's going to happen in the background. But if you're running down the road pulling 35 kilowatts and you put 19 back in, it's just going to show efficiency increase on your dash. You're going to show like 3.2 to 3.4 mile per kilowatt hour because it's not using that much.
Yeah, it would be super cool.
Those are the kinds of things that I think will be great for towers.
Well, your trucks are perfect for that, Martin, where you can take and kind of experiment with some of those. And I'm assuming you would have to take the battery and wire that generator output direct to the DC somehow, because you couldn't go through the charge port door in some way. That would be
it'll be under by the battery side. There's actually two ports on these trucks that have your high voltage side for the AC, the HVAC side, and then you also have that. So you could tie it into the AC side, you could tie it in the DC side. We're actually thinking about tying it into the AC side, like the inverters are. There's two on the 80 amp trucks. There's two inverters under the bed. On the newer ones, there's just one. Well, that wire that feeds that battery is just disconnected by the software at Ford. But if you manually put power to that wire outside the inverter, it will charge that. It will charge that truck running down the road. This is not something new. It has been proven. It will do it. I don't know why Ford hasn't done this yet. I think it's about they sold 33,000 Lightnings last year versus like 350,000 F-150s. They're not making money with them yet. So, where's the demand? Where's the business case to show that we need this? Well, there's a few of us that do. I think what it is, the range extender on the Ram Charger is going to really prove out, do we need this?
I think it's going to do. I think the Ram Charger and the Scout are going to do incredibly well and be a big eye opener. And there's a big market for that in China. And I'm a big believer in looking to China to see what the future looks like. For those that haven't or don't subscribe to Out of Spec, Connor's out there right now in China doing 70% battery at 380 kilowatts and 5C charging. I'm going to use that term 5C charging, even though I just learned from Brandon Flash and roaming Norway what that meant.
Put energy in a battery.
Right. I was like, you keep dropping this term, Brandon. What does it mean? And so they kind of broke it down for me a little bit. And then I did some really bad math. So ignore that comment on Twitter when I broke that down. But now at least I have a concept of it. And yeah, seeing those things out of China, they do a lot of these advanced, like huge charging, awesome curves, and really big on exactly what you're talking about, Martin. A bunch of those have those.
I think we're going to see Ford do that. When they can, the Expedition and the big. I think they're going to go a hybrid with it. We haven't released anything, and I'm totally guessing, but I think in the next year we're going to see that come out. Where it's maybe a 2.3 liter with a generator and a hybrid system where you can actually travel and not have the car get in the way of your travel.
Josh and Jesse went and just did on the Turn Down for What channel. Look at the videos. They just did a video on the Cadillac Escalade IC, the IQ, and that thing is monstrous, but it's got like a 200 kilowatt hour battery. It's 9,000 pounds. It's a lumbering beast.
$150,000.
$150,000, right? And so great, you know, you can sell a couple thousand a year like Lucid does, and you know, but if you're going to mass market that thing, they got to get the prices down, and the way to get it is a smaller battery pack, and it's so much better. My sister has the Lincoln Aviator, which is a plug-in hybrid, but the battery on that is only like going to get her 20-25 miles on the plug-in side, but she uses it to tow a trailer, and so somewhere in the middle, right, is the answer. And that's where China really has gotten it right, and I think that's where I think Ram is going to get it right. And that's where I think Scout is going to get it right, because these 200 kilowatt hour battery packs are insane. And the one in my sister's Aviator is, other than commute back and forth to work, is useless. You know, once you're on the highway towing a trailer, that hybrid aspect is almost negligible. So you need,
and our battery tech gets that where you can depend on the battery to do that, we're going to need that. I think there's a really big market here for a Maverick or a Ranger or something that'll go about 50 to 100 miles, or
Maverick.
Or
Maverick, Bronco Sport.
Yeah, something. I think even if we had an F-150 with like a 50 kilowatt battery that could do 100 to 125 miles, that's 27 grand brand new. There's a lot of guys that buy that. They need a pickup. They don't tow with it, but they don't need it to go 350 miles. We all talk about wanting more range and all this. Yeah, I'm that guy, but there's a lot that, you know, I think cost is our number one thing stopping people from going EV right now, because it's
100%. Yep.
Look at the
100%.
volume of Leafs that are sold every year, or the Chevy Bolt. It's cost driven.
Yeah, the lease deals out there show that too. You know, so many of these have gone towards the lease deals, because the Leaf, the Bolt, and the one that really kind of should open everybody's eyes is the Honda Prologue, who, you know, shout out to Patrick and Liv, who also went out and got, what did they just get? They just got the Chevy Equinox.
I believe,
which is basically that same deal, right? They got a great lease deal on the Equinox, which is essentially what. Oh no, the Prologue is the Blazer. Is that right? The Prologue is the Blazer.
No, Prologue is the Honda Prologue. That's Honda's own deal.
No, the Prologue is actually
the Prologue is GM. Yeah,
it is.
Prologue's
it
GM.
is.
I believe it's the Blazer. It's a little bit bigger.
Here, then.
Yeah. Now there's a new Honda one that they're supposed to be coming out with that they just talked about at CES. Yeah,
no,
but
I'm good with it. The Honda Prologue is a Honda vehicle.
No,
yeah, it is, but it's made by GM.
It's made by GM. It's got
really?
OnStar.
It's GM base. Okay, that's cool.
And
it is a Honda vehicle, but it's made by GM.
It's the best GM car you can ever buy. Ultium, which they don't want to call it anymore, but
right now it's not Ultium, but
it is. It is the best. That is the best GM product you can ever buy, because it will charge.
And everything
it's got Apple CarPlay, and it will charge on Tesla chargers. You just have to tell it that you're in a Chevy Blazer. So even though you're in a Honda Prologue, if you tell it you're in a Chevy Blazer, it will work on the Tesla chargers with an adapter, and it has CarPlay, and it's got Honda service at the dealers.
I've seen quite a few here already.
Yeah, they sold 30-something thousand of them. You know, right behind Mach-E was the outsold the Chevy Blazer, which is essentially its cousin. You know, and so but that's the lease deals. You know,
that's gonna be a good one. I think that the Ranger is overseas with like 28 miles right now. I wish they'd bring that here. I think, you know, we could put a little bit bigger battery in it, but I have a friend that I work with that wants a Power Boost, the Ford Power Boost, 1.5 kilowatt battery. It's really not a hybrid. I mean, it is, but
Gabriel just chimed in.
Year and a half.
Gabriel chimed in with cost. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, Gabriel, if that was the range extender or the cost of like the Prologue or some of those. Maybe comment.
Give us some feedback there. Which one you're talking about? But
I know a lot of people aren't going to buy. The reason they're leasing them is because you wouldn't want to spend base price on the Prologue or the Blazer or a lot of these especially if you compare specs to, a Model Y or some of those that are out there. It's not a great deal. But if you lease it and then you get the 7,500 and then you get, you're only, we considered actually the lease, because in 2 years is when the new Ford stuff is going to come out, in 26, 27. So we carefully we considered for a while. In fact, it was funny. We reached out to a local Volkswagen dealer, because Volkswagen was doing a great, like $149 a month lease for 2 years. And so my wife and I were considering that, and the dealer experience was so bad that we just forgot about it. Like, forget it. They kept trying to sell me an actual car and talk about financing and trying to talk about other lease deals. I posted that on X, the screenshots of this chat, and then they started emailing me, and I'm like, guys, you're killing me. And then we just like, forget it, but yeah, these lease deals, it does show that cost is a big component of it. It does show that if the price, and that's where you got to look at LFP, or you've got to look at the new Ford plant that's going to be purpose built. Hopefully the Rivian R2, all of these things, we got to get the price down, because we can only hold China off for so long, and they are going to come in and kick our butt if we don't get
that. The administration just showed that they're going to try to block that. I mean, that was a new thing. They're blocking it for a while. And then you're right. For so long is okay till the next person says we're going to allow them in.
Yeah. And there's a number of people, there's some great debates online on whether that protectionism is a good idea or we need competition. They refer back to Japan in the 80s, when Japan came in and kind of got our attention. It made our cars better for the competition. But I really do think China, maybe I'm wrong, but I really do think China is a different beast. I think we need to give it a couple years for Ford to ramp up, for Rivian to ramp up their R2. I do think we need that LG battery plant. We need the Ford SK-On and CATL battery plants. I think we need all these things, so at least they have a chance. You can't do it forever. There is going to be a year when you're going to have to compete, or we're going to turn around and we're going to be so far behind, and they're going to take over the world. These companies, they're worldwide companies, so they can't survive with just America. They do have to compete. But Mach-E is made in Mexico. I can remember buying a Chevy Camaro, 35th anniversary, one of my favorite cars I ever owned, LS1 engine. God, that thing was a T-top. It was beautiful. And I remember being so proud of my Chevy Camaro. And then somebody pulls up in a Honda and says, dude, my Honda is more American than your Chevy Camaro, right? And I'm like, shut up. I'm like, yeah, go look at your door tag. It's made in Canada. And my Honda is made down in, I don't know if it was in Georgia or Kentucky or somewhere. And I was like, God dang it. So it's a worldwide market, man. It's Mustang, in fact, is bringing in their battery packs to lower cost from Poland. Is that right, Jace? From Poland to Detroit?
Poland, I believe it is Poland.
Well,
LG,
I'm really
excited.
Right? That's a good point. I'm really excited if Ford ends up actually doing something with Saku. I don't know if you guys saw that Monroe Live where he had those little pouch style packs.
Yep.
If they can do that, now we're talking about 1,000 cycle, 2 or 3 C rate, really high energy for what they are, and the cost is super cheap to produce. So I think, if nothing else, all of not everybody wants to drive an EV. My dad dead set against it. I think it's got a tool. It's a tool for the right job, but we have to. If nothing else, it's driving technology. It's going to make us have better cell phones. It's going to make us have better batteries in our regular car. Just a 12-volt battery in your car is going to get better because of the tech we're driving through this. So I don't see this as a bad thing, even though it's, there's a lot of people that are going to go, no, we're not ever driving an EV. It's not for us. I'm trying to get my parents to sell their 2008 Lincoln Navigator that's got 410,000 miles on it to get to something that they don't have to have a lot of costs, because they don't go anywhere, 20, 30 miles a day, at most.
Yeah, I'm curious to see also how the solid state and semi-solid state works out. There's a lot of talk about that, but there's been a lot of talk about that for years. So
yeah, Ford just released, added an extension to their deal with Solid Power.
Yep.
So that was interesting to see. It was going to expire, I believe, like soon, and so I was glad to see them extend that. I don't think they'd extend it if they didn't think it was worth it. So
I think that's when the hard thing is, as Ford fans, that's the hardest thing to get used to. I'm not criticizing, but it's a opposite thing to what Tesla hypes things up throws it out there. They share a bunch of stuff. There's so many Tesla fans and so many people connected, you know, whether it's Sawyer or and all the different people that are connected to Tesla. Stuff leaks all the time. And Ford, you feel like you start looking around and like, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing? Something's coming, right? Reassure me that something is coming. And then suddenly it will be there and we just won't know about it. And it was like that with the Lightning. There wasn't a lot of, you know, leaked pictures. You know, everybody knew about the remodel 3. Everybody knew about what's the new Y called, the code name for the Y. Juniper, right?
Juniper.
Everybody knew about these things before they happened. And with Ford, you just never know. Look, mea culpa on Chevy, man, because a year ago, Josh and Jesse and I would talk about Chevy. I think everybody was mocking their GM. What's her name? Mary. Yeah. Yep. And you turn around and suddenly you've got, I mean, for better or for worse, I'm not a big fan of the 200 kilowatt hour batteries, to be honest with you, but you've got the Hummer, you've got the Silverado, they got the GMC, you've got the Cadillac Escalade, you've got the Chevy Bolt, you've got the Equinox, you've got the Lyric, you got the Celestiq. I'm sure I'm missing some in there. I see a bunch of Caltrans, Silverado EVs going up and down the highway. So, you know, to their credit, they turned around and figured that stuff out with Ultium, and they've got a whole lineup. And Ford still has the same 3 E-Transit, you know, number 2 selling EV van behind the Rivian. But does a monster, I mean, great sales of it, right? Mach-E 50, I don't know if you remember the number, Jace, 50-something thousand on Mach-E.
Yeah,
more than a gas Mustang.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really different strategies, but I think things also were fluid in the market, right? And fluid with politics and the country, right? I think there was so much hope, I think, built up with a combination of COVID, high gas prices, you know, so many things that I think people thought, oh, this is going to be the next greatest thing, and it just didn't quite happen. I think the way that everybody thought it was going to happen, and really not for Tesla or really anybody, right? Like not even for like ICE. You know, I mean, we're seeing inventories just through the roof, right? No matter really what you're trying to buy. So, I mean, I think. Yeah, I think what people have to remember is Ford is a cautious company. They, for better and for worse, right? Especially nowadays. But I will say that there is a feeling inside of Ford of that it needs to move quicker, right? I've heard executives say time and time again to me, Jim Farley, whomever, right? That Ford needs to act as if there's a startup underneath Ford, right? Inside Ford, so to speak. And they know this, they sense this, but the way kind of Ford did it was very different. Like small teams, small budgets for Mach-E and for Lightning, very small when it really, you know, in automotive world, especially for as large as a company as Ford is. And so they did a really small budget, really small team, and they came up with honestly amazing products for like how small those teams were and how small those budgets were. Partly because I think they had great products to build off of, right? You had the Mustang name and what, you know, what you wanted out of that. But then you have F-150, which is already an amazing product, and you kind of, you know, can just build around that, add the Mega Frunk, you know, blah, 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 blah. You already have a great interior. You've got a great cab. You've got the aluminum stamping set in place, which nobody really has matched worldwide as far as aluminum stamping when it comes to Ford. No one has the capability. Even GM still doesn't have that capability. So at the scale that Ford does, right? So, you know, I think they concentrated on different things, and then they kind of saw these great products, but then they didn't have the team in place. Like GM focused on battery tech, GM focused on those things, and Ford didn't. You know, they kind of said, we're going to build a great product, you know, that's based off of our other products, but they didn't have Doug Field. They didn't have all these guys in place. And so, you know, I think just kind of the way it happened is a little different. And, you know, I think there have been some times where it becomes frustrating as a Ford fan because you want the latest and greatest, but when you look at the deep, like fundamentals and how it happened and why it happened, I think the smart move is what they're doing in the long run, but it may not be the most satisfying as like a fan, right?
Yeah, I think that describes it perfectly. It's not satisfying. Yeah, you're right. And I've met Doug Fields. I met him out in Palo Alto at the Greenfield Labs. Was Sophie from the Mach-E Club. We all went out there and did a big thing. And the guy's a genius, man. You can see
I
it.
would like
you
to
can hear
see
it.
more of him again. I'm kind of
Yes.
sad that he's kind of gone, kind of MIA a little bit as far as public engagement goes. But I think this is kind of for a reason. I really do think this is all for a reason. I think Ford has kind of said, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's regroup. Let's come back with a new game plan. And let's not release information, because I think they did that a couple times too soon, where they got a little bit ahead of themselves, released some stuff, and then, oh wait, the market didn't really, kind of follow what we were thinking it would, and so now we have to kind of go back and retool. So I think that kind of has not put some people off, but it kind of stifled some expectations, right? And some excitement, maybe, let's say.
They definitely no, go ahead, Martin. Sorry.
Yeah, Tesla did that with the Cybertruck. They told us 500-mile range and $39,000 and all these things, and it comes out and it's not. And yes, they've sold a lot of those, but it certainly wasn't something I was seriously considering until it came out. I love it or hate it. Yes, it's an ugly truck. It's different. I would have bought one, but it's not better than the Lightning to me. The tech is a little better, but for me, I want a company like Ford behind me. I work for a large ag manufacturer myself as my day job, and it takes years to put these programs together. They were probably working on the Lightning in 2017, 2018 with a 2022 release date. And so they were working on this long before the tech was ready. And had no.
We've seen the prototype. I think, were you there, Chris? You saw the prototype with us. Yeah.
I was going to see if I could pull up the picture. I'm not sure if I can do it fast enough, but yeah, we saw the prototype for it.
So then now you're 4 years, 5 years later, the Lightning's a little dated, but they started on whatever T3 is and whatever they're working on when the Lightning came out. They knew. I mean, we all heard about it, but I think you're right, Jace. They don't want to release too much too soon, because you don't know what thing's going to pan out. There's too many unknowns, too many variables, too many things that are changing so fast in the battery industry. We'd like to think that I noticed Gabriel posted, about lithium batteries in the 12 volt. How much lithium would that, if they swapped everything over? He's right. We need to get away from that tech and move towards something, the sodium ion or this Saku's battery tech. But Ford releasing that information early without proving it out, without all the validation, it can be detrimental to the reputation of the company. So they got to be cautious.
Yep, and they are, and I think again, for better and for worse, right? But yeah, it's Ford has been clear that whatever comes next needs to be profitable. It cannot be, and Jim has gone as far as to say that, like, if it's not, it won't come out. It has to be profitable, and not just like you're not talking like even what GM's maybe making on their Altium stuff, right? Like, he's talking BYD level profitability. So we'll see. There's it's going to be interesting to see really what happens and how they do it. But yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I mean, it's hard to get used to. It's sort of like where Apple is in sort of my eye. Like where they have amazing products. They're a leader in what they do, but they're cautious. Again, for better, for worse, but every once in a while, like once every maybe decade or once every 5 years, they're going to come out with like some big product and they're going to surprise the crap out of you.
Yeah, and it kind of actually worked out. Both Tesla and Ford worked out in my favor as an early buyer of the Lightning, because I can remember when I first bought it. I already had the Tesla Cybertruck on order. Like, I ordered that Tesla Cybertruck. I wanted the rear wheel drive, $40,000 spec. And I would, even at 50,000, 60,000, I would still be waiting on that reservation today, 3 years later. Not quite 3 years with my Lightning, but 2.5 years, I guess, is where I'm at. And then the Lightning came out, and I was like, oh man, do I wait for the Cybertruck? No. Okay. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to pull it. Ford gave me a great offer on my old Honda Odyssey minivan. Those COVID prices were insane. People were buying. They were buying Model 3s and Model Ys and then selling them 6 months later for more than they bought them for, right? It was crazy times. And So interest
And a
rates were
Mach-E
low.
for free for a year, literally a
Yes.
whole year.
Yep.
And I got
think
the
Patrick and
7,500, so kind of got paid.
right. Patrick and Liv, I think, did the same thing with their Mach-E. I think a couple people did, and those were insane times that I knew they couldn't last forever. So yeah, I pulled the trigger on getting the Lightning and took the risk, but I kept hearing, right, that I think originally it was as soon as 23 was going to be the new, it wasn't going to be sync anymore. Like year 1 was going to be sync. You remember that, Jason? 23 was actually going to be the new software. And then
And
it
at
was,
the time, I think it was, did they say Android Auto? I think it wasn't called like digital experience yet. I think they
Android
just called it
Automotive.
like Android Automotive. Yeah.
And you couldn't upgrade it. So I remember thinking to myself, do I just wait? Do I just wait a year? Oh, and then it turns out I got rewarded for my pulling the trigger because Android Automotive still hasn't come out, and none of the specs have gotten better. You might even argue some of them have gotten worse. And with the over-the-air updates, a lot of my truck is better than it was when I bought it. And the Cybertruck, to your point, Martin, it's a great truck. I'm not crapping on the Cybertruck. I've been in it. I think it's a great truck. I would be super happy to drive it, but the frunk isn't better. The power in the frunk isn't better. The room in the back seat for my kids isn't better. The visibility isn't better.
Blind spots are terrible.
The grab handle, it sounds stupid. The grab handle is something that's important to my wife. The running boards are important for my kids. There are a number of fundamental aspects that I am not sad at all about my Lightning. There's a number of great things about the Cybertruck that the Lightning can't compete with. But I've been in all of these EV trucks, the Rivian, the Silverado, all of them. Nothing is as quiet as the Lightning. It is quiet. It is smooth. It's got the independent rear suspension, which is every bit as good as the air suspension. And in fact, the Silverado with that midgate is loud because of the midgate. The engine, the motor noise on the Rivian, loud. The motor noise on the Tesla, loud. And the comfort of the seats is better in the Lightning. Like I say, there's plenty of.
We're coming to see you, in California this June. We're going to be in California, going to come out. We're going to tune your truck and get it all tuned up. But I wanted to take the Mach-E, the R21 GT Performance Edition, and my wife's like, no, I don't think so. I think the truck is so comfortable on a road trip like that. I think we're going to take the truck.
That's the reason why we bought 2. I mean, I had the Bronco at the time, 2-door. I was loving it. It was loud as hell, and it was fun. But Justin got his Lightning that we ordered, and we were driving it home that night, 2 hours home from Columbus, and I'm like, I'm sold. I've never been in a quieter vehicle than this vehicle.
I pulled up the Facebook post. Yeah, this was our trip to Detroit. Gosh. We peeked through the door, and that's the original prototype Lightning there. And I'll full screen this here just so I can make it as big as possible. And then
the GT,
yeah. Yeah. And so they just took a gas, F-150 and they modified it. And there you can see
that's a pre-21. That's a 20. That's the older body style.
I don't know the trucks well enough, but I'll take your word for that.
And you guys remember the 72 model Ford, 73 model Ford they did as well, or 78, and they made it EV.
Yeah, and there's the battery pack underneath it.
I love that. See, that's what I want to do with some other stuff. We'll talk more on this channel, this podcast about tech. I want to get into some of this tech as we go along here, because there's some things that I think we'd all like to see, and some stuff that we're really, Chris, these are making me jealous. I want to do some of this with it. I should take a 19 F-150 and make it into a Lightning.
It's so cool to see that even early on, the frunk was already being emptied out and having that kind of vision for it, which I've been spoiled by it, the Lightning is my first EV, and it's going back to the BMW iX video that I did. It blew me away that big old hood with all the great geniuses of German engineering not only doesn't have a frunk, you physically can't even open it. Like, you can't open the BMW iX.
That's so crazy.
I made the comment,
you can open it, but not the average person.
Right. Yes. But I said it reminded me of the Fisker. And anytime you're comparing a vehicle to a Fisker, that's probably not a good thing. Like, it's just, I can't even, it was one of the biggest things I don't understand about some of the, EPMG car, EPMG, is that the platform from Korea? The Kias and Hyundais, a lot of them, Those things don't have the frunks. I think Lucid, shout out to them with the Gravity, has an awesome frunk. Silverado, great frunk. Why would you not have a frunk? A lot of those, the original Tesla Model S.
I still think though that Lightning has the best frunk, which is crazy
sure.
to me. Like it blows me away that it's that ahead of its time. I mean, I think part of it too, right? The Lightning just has so much space, and they can squish things in there. But it's still, and to fit a spare tire in there too. Another, I talked to Justin, and I got caught one time talking to Darren Palmer at I don't know if you guys have met Darren Palmer or seen Darren Palmer. He is amazing. Yep. He's, I think, Ford VP of electric vehicles now. He will talk your ear off. There have been multiple times where I got caught talking to Darren Palmer, and I just can't get away. And the one time he's talking to us, and like everybody left the factory, and we're on the factory floor talking to him, and he's telling us the story about how they locked themselves in a room for literally like 2 days to try to figure out how to keep the spare from the F-150 and put it on the Lightning. And he's like, if it's a truck, it's got to have a spare. If it's a truck, it's got to have a spare. And they locked themselves in the room to figure it out, and they got it done. And little did we know, 6 months after we got our Lightning, we'd be using it. But it's those little things that I really appreciate that, Ford took the time to be able to do. But also we're talking, like you said, in 2019, 2020, and it's really cool that, I think it's part of the reason that, like what you said, Chris, is why I'm not like ready and antsy to get a new truck or a new vehicle like I usually would around 2-3 years time. I'm like, I've got OTAs, I've got everything I need. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you drive like ICE F-150s, we had them after 2 to 3 years, the steering just kind of starts to feel loose, and
sloppy.
Everything just starts to rattle, and we just don't have that with the Lightning. It's just everything's still tight, just like the day you bought it. And
the Lightning is so planted.
Yeah, it is.
Funniest.
I sold my truck, my 22 recently, just only because the business model for my body shop is to keep it about a year, maybe 2, and sell it. And so I started really looking at what's next, and I see comments that Chris makes about loving his truck, even though he's having problems. And what would he go to? Jace, you're saying that, yes, we may all be biased towards Ford, but I took a serious look what's next for me. And I'd like to venture into something that's not a Ford. But every time I do, I always come back because you miss frunk space, or you miss this, or you miss that. Patrick bought, my buddy in Florida, who's this tech guy with me, bought a new Chevy 4WT work truck. I think he gave $57,000 or $55,000 for the truck. It's been in the shop. I think he said today, out of 45 days of ownership, like 33 days. And there's things that he said, it won't do this, it won't do this, and I'm like, it just makes me miss he said it makes me miss my Ford, because he had an extended range Lariat that he put 157,000 miles on and had still like 92% battery, 92% degradation. So
I think the other thing too is you go to GM and they'll call you about OnStar and say, okay, if you want app access, it's going to be $38 a month or whatever. I find that absolutely crazy. They just called my parents a month ago when they bought their XT5, which is like their 4th XT5, even though they haven't updated it in forever. I tried to get them to a Lyric, but they weren't having it. So they got another XT5, and and Chevy, they were paying the old OnStar still, and Chevy's calling them trying to get the new one paid. It's a mess, and they're like, oh well, it's $65, is what you should be paying. And I went through it with them, and really all they needed to pay was like $34 a month or something. But still, to me, that's a lot of money, like just to use remote start. And there's a couple other things included, but it's really the basic plan is you're just trying to get remote start. That's what you would use it for every day.
Good point. Even with the 2024s or 2025s that are coming without any of the goodies that we had, the 2 and 3 year Blue Cruise and some of that, if you just buy a Lightning and don't subscribe to anything, you're going to get Ford Pass, you're going to get remote start, you're going to get some of this stuff that I think should just be there. I'm a little frustrated with the Mach-E. I don't have any way to precondition the battery, but in our situation, we don't need to. What do you need that for? So,
and GM still wants to charge you for Super Cruise. So you're playing OnStar, then and at least Super Cruise is only $25 a month, but you're paying, 25 plus 38, I mean, it really adds up. So it's just, what brings me back to Ford a lot of the time too is those inclusions. The app is included. Is it the fastest, bestest, whatever? No, but it works 99% of the time for us. If I can't remote start the truck, it's probably because I turned my Bluetooth off on my phone being
Right,
stupid,
right.
or I tried to remote start it twice, which should
Well,
be
and Jace, if you went and
gone.
bought a
But
standard range Lightning like yours today, you're going to pay in the low 50s for it. Well, if you
yep.
go buy a Cybertruck today, it's still $80,000 for the cheapest one. A Rivian, still $80,000. I mean, there's not another competitor besides the 3WT and 2WT that's coming. I just heard the 2WT's out, and they're also going to come with an 8WT as well, 500-mile range. But anyway, that Ford doesn't. They're meeting a market that's close. You can buy a new Flash for the same price as a new Lariat gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got so many discounts and deals, and I'm not. Again, Ford just doesn't share a lot of their information, so I'm not sure what the numbers are. Like, are they taking a loss on every vehicle? Are they? I think one of the most insightful things I ever heard, and I might get the quarter wrong, but I want to say it was Q3. It had to be Q3 somewhere last year. One of the quarterly calls. It was a profound statement that wasn't caught by many people or picked up on, where they mentioned that for every Lightning they sell, they can sell 17 gas F-150s. And if you do the math on 35,000 Lightnings times 17, you end up with a number that's in the ballpark of how many F-Series trucks they're selling, specifically F-150s. Because the F-250s and 350s, I think, are heavy duty and they're not subject to the same what are those carbon credit deals, right? And so they saved a bunch of money not paying Tesla like they had in previous years for Tesla's carbon credit offsets. And so if you're gonna lose, I'm making up numbers now. If you're gonna lose $1 million on your Lightning, and I don't know if it's more or less, I'm literally pulling that out of nowhere. But if you're gonna lose $1 million on your Lightnings by slashing numbers, but you save $5 million that you're not paying Tesla, your competitor, and it's a tax write-off, there's a lot of reasons why they need to keep making a Lightning. And every once in a while, these rumors come out about where they confuse a production stop with, not making the Lightning. They are going to keep making the Lightning because even if they make no money on it, and they want to find ways to make money, and they ultimately with T3 are going to have to make money. They've committed to this. But even today, like, people freak out because they say they're losing X amount of money. They do this with Lucid and Rivian too. They're losing this much money on every truck, but they're not factoring in the Kentucky battery plant, the Michigan battery plant, the Tennessee, manufacturing plant.
That network.
Yeah, they're not factoring in all the people that are doing the code in Michigan and here in California and Irvine and Palo Alto. They're not losing literally that money on every truck. They have all this investment that they're putting into the next generation that they need to in order to compete and in order to make money. And even if they lose some money on it, which I'm sure they are, I shouldn't say I'm sure because I really, like I say, don't know, but they're not paying that money now to Tesla. They're not having to buy those carbon offsets. There's so much more in the big picture to this stuff that Ford just doesn't talk about release for whatever reason. Credit to them for breaking out Lightning sales the way they do. They're one of the few that does. But yeah, they're so quiet and so internal with their information. It's so hard to get. But that was one on that quarterly call that I just thought was profound, that it enables them to sell other vehicles and it's not going anywhere. And that doesn't even count Mach-E. 50,000 Mach-Es, again, that's carbon credits. They're going to offset. It's not like they're selling a Ford Taurus anymore. So
I think that's great from a business model, and they have to play the same game that everybody's playing. I heard Elon talk the other day about the new bill and the tax credit, and he said, we don't need it. Get rid of it. He's not even for it.
Well,
and I think there's a lot of sense to that. If you build a better car and it will perform like the average American needs it to perform, they're going to outsell regardless of what happens. If the F-150 Lightning was a 500-mile range truck with a 10-minute charge and there's a gas station on every corner, and it was the same price, If you drive one and you don't see that downside, it's really easy to make the decision. Right now, there's a few downsides that most people can't get past. So even without those carbon credits, and I understand where you're going with that, I think it's still the end of the day, 33,000 lightnings is no, that's not insignificant. I mean, that's what they sold, I think, was it last year, 2024?
33,510, I think was the number.
Something like that. That's not insignificant, but it goes to show you how many people just can't grasp it. You know, I think if they back off and they do hybrid a little more, where you get that opportunity to, because a lot of us travel with our trucks, and most people I know, if you're dealing with, you think about it, if you're trying to put strollers in and dealing with kids and your wife, and you got to be home, they don't want to charge, they just want to drive. And that's why I proposed this range extender that I did, because throw it in the back of the truck, throw some gas in it, drive. You don't have to fight it. But when you get home, you're driving on electric. So I think Ram Charger is going to be onto that. Scout's going to be onto that. And I think Ford is coming. We're going to see more hybrids out of Ford. And I think that's where we need to go with this technology for a while. Personally, unless I'm forced out of a Lightning, I'm not going back to gas. I might do a range extender for my long trips, and it might be a battery, it might be a generator, but for my daily commute and 99% of what I'm doing, I didn't order a Ram Charger, FYI. I ordered a Rev. And I don't know that I want to buy a Chrysler. I'm not a big fan of their model, even though I think the new CEO is going to change some things. But the Rev is a better deal for me. It's 14,000 pounds. It's 8-lug wheel. I tow a lot. If it'll do 250 miles towing, great. That's 2.5 hours of driving, 3 hours of driving.
I just know from the time that I spent driving that STX F-150, I had not been in an F-150 gas vehicle since 2008. 2000, well, it was after that, because it was actually 2012, I guess. So from 2008 to 2012, I had a gas F-150. Loved it, but it got like 15 miles to the gallon, and I only got like 300 miles out of it. And I got into this STX, and Jace, you know this stuff. You probably both actually know this better than I do. I get confused. EcoBoost, Power Boost, are they the same thing?
No, I mean, to be clear on that, the EcoBoost engine is what's in the Power Boost. But the Power Boost has a generator between the transmission and the engine to charge a 1.5 kilowatt battery. So the EcoBoost trucks are exactly the same thing, minus the generator and the battery.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the 2.7 liter and then the 3.5 liter, and then you have the natural V8 5 liter.
Yeah, EcoBoost is their turbocharged direct injected engine. And it's a good engine, but they have their issues.
I think it was the EcoBoost. It had a 36-gallon tank on it and was rated to go 900 miles on the highway, 700 miles mixed use. And I mostly drive, for all the reasons, they're opposite. They're so opposite. You know, the Lightning works great for me. I get, 270 miles out of my standard range because it's Bay Area commute traffic. It's surface streets. It's a lot of, but for that same reason, it made the STX inefficient. But even at inefficient, it was giving me 700 miles of inefficient range. And on the highway on that trip to Disneyland, I could have made it to Disneyland and back without gassing that thing up again. But
would you do it? Knowing how your Lightning rides and drives.
No, I would never switch. I would never switch at all. But there you go. But that is what I compare it to, though. It's interesting you mentioned the spare tire, because just like in my head, I'm like, we don't need 700, much less 900 miles of range. You got to go to the restroom. I got kids. The Lightning works perfectly fine for me. I would love to have the extended range, but even as a standard range, it worked just fine. We're going to do a trip to Arizona to the Grand Canyon in the spring, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be fun. But for the same reason as that, I want a spare tire. It would be hard for me not to have a spare tire. I have never once used the spare tire in my Lightning. And so to me, that is analogous conversation to the range. Do I need 700 miles? Do I need 900 miles? I don't. Do I need a spare tire? Technically, no. I have never used it. I'd like to have it just in case. People feel that way about range. They want to know they can. They don't need it most of the time, but they want to know they can. That's the American ethos. It's we're
except for guys like me. I'm using it. Asher posted, who uses their truck for work? I don't know if that was sarcastic or not, but I do. I'm towing 2,500 miles most every time I get in that truck round trip. And I got a trailer not a huge big box trailer or a big RV like Sergio has, but I get 1.8 to 1.1 mile per kilowatt hour. I want 700 miles of range. So when you cut it in half, and it does the exact same thing on a gas that it does on electric when you're towing.
Jace, you literally use yours in the roofing industry.
Yep,
I mean,
both of our trucks are used every day for roofing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
it may be
Yeah,
good for
every
his
day. I mean,
safety.
for us, it's perfect because we, we don't. Most we're ever driving is maybe 50 to 75 miles a day, if that, and that's very, very rare. So yeah, I mean, I've talked about this a lot, and I gotta go here in a second, but
Yeah, we're about ready to wrap up.
yeah, I've
shout
talked about
out
this
to
a lot. That
no, go ahead,
that,
go ahead, Jace.
yeah, that we used to put all our roofing stuff in the back seat, because it was especially when we only had one truck, and cap nails, whatever else, and now we could take all that stuff that was in the back seat and put it in the front, and we don't have to clean that if we go out one night or whatever. We don't have to clean that whole back seat out. I mean, it's the perfect roofing vehicle. It fits our ladders perfectly, which have fit in our ladders, all of our F-150s, since the 2019 whatever we had XLT, and unless you have the spray in, if you have the drop in, bed liner, the ladder is a little tight. You have to push really hard, bend the front, and then close the tailgate real quick. I don't think it would work with the power tailgate on the Lariat. It would probably have gotten stuck every time. But the spray in's like perfect. It's the perfect size. So no, it's just been, we use it for every single day, and it's amazing. I mean, I'll tell you, our company briefly looked at getting a bunch of Cybertrucks. Our company was going to order like 20 Cybertrucks, and I think our experience kind of helped in a certain sense, because we don't have people that even know our trucks are electric when we go into a driveway, and that is sometimes a great thing. Sometimes it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? But any opportunity that we can limit a bad interaction with a customer is a good thing for us, right? And we were just a little nervous that standing out like that would turn off more people than maybe it would bring in, or maybe vice versa. You never really know. But here in Ohio, not so much. So I mean, it's just, the Lightning is the perfect undercover EV. What they'll do with T3, I think things will be a little different. I think we're going to see more of Ford push a little bit more. How far, we don't know. But, I hope we get some info within the next, gosh, I'd hope like 6 months to 10 months.
I'm itching for it, man. I'm hoping, and I think that's, like I say, I it turned out to be, the timing on my Lightning was great, because by the time it does come out in 26 or 27, I will have it paid off, and it will be the right time to switch, and it all worked out. I don't have any regrets, because I'm not, no FOMO, right? I didn't miss out on Android Automotive. I didn't miss out on the new T3 in 25 or 24, 25. It all just kind of worked out. So as much as I wish it was all sooner, thank you, Ford, for making my purchase even more valuable. And
I know.
Yeah, and
it's crazy.
I want to just shout out the 57 people live viewing us right now. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Please drop a comment in here, because we plan to do this every Thursday pretty much, to do this live stream. Might have different people coming on. And so I think we did this at 5 p.m. Pacific. That's 7 Central and 8 o'clock Eastern. So that means right now, as we're coming up on 7 o'clock, that's 10 o'clock Eastern. Not sure where our audience is for you 55 people watching the stream. Drop comments and let us know what's the ideal time. Is this a great time? We've had more people on late.
Give us some topics too. I think next week we had a great introductory. We went over some high level stuff. I really would like to get in, if people want to talk about Forescan, or if they want to talk about, what's going on with the Chevy, or even if we want to skew off and maybe talk about lawnmowers. I know there was some new information about a lawnmower that Jace might have.
Jace got the Z06.
Talk about. I have a new Deere electric lawnmower coming up, so maybe we talk a little bit about that. We want this to be just electric related, and it doesn't have to be specifically trucks. That is a big thing on a lot of people's mind, but I think give us some feedback to let us know what you guys want to hear, what you want to talk about.
And I think just before we wrap up real quick, Martin, because I meant to bring this up earlier, and shame on me for not doing so. We started talking about like what each of us had been up to, and I missed kind of you made a video doing me a solid favor, making a Putco
the T harness.
the T harness. So
Yeah,
I kind
so
of
if anybody's curious, we're gonna hopefully, Chris, we get the video you putting yours in, but a lot of people know about the LED emblem in your truck, the LED light, and it's cool. It's kind of been done a lot now. I still think it's one of the best things that I've done with mine, but the hard part about wiring that is where do you connect it? Is it going to stay on all the time? So if you order the kit from Ford, it comes with that particular harness in the kit. If you order from Putco, it does not. You just get a tap into the fuse box. So I bought the kit. I made the tweaks to it. You have to cut 2 wires and resolder those to 2 more wires. Then you tee it into your headlight. Run it up the headlight or up the front along the hood, and it's plug and play into the plug-in on the LED emblem itself. So what I'm getting at is you can't buy that currently, but if you got a little bit of knowledge, or if you want those, I even thought about it. Guys want those? Send me your T harnesses, and for $50, I'll do it. Now I'm throwing that out there. I shouldn't say that because I don't know exactly what.
Be careful what you ask for. Yeah.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. I'll get 25 harnesses showing up at the house, but it does make that in plug and play. And what I like about it the most, and is what they missed. When you turn the headlights off, the LED emblem goes off. On my 22, I wired it into the fuse box like everybody does. But on the 23 and on Joe's truck, who we added to his truck, we wired it into this T harness. That way, if you pull in, we have pets. When you pull in somewhere and you're going to leave your dogs in the truck for an hour while you go eat dinner, I can shut the truck off and it looks like it's off. With the other truck, that emblem is always sitting there just glowing, and it kind of attracts people to want to come look at it, or they think you left it running. So yeah, this is a pretty simple solution, but you can buy that kit from Putco. You can do these tweaks yourself if you got a little bit of knowledge. Just watch that video, and it'll let you have a better experience with. And we hope to do a lot more stuff like that. There's a lot more things that you can do to the Lightning like this to add, and I'm hoping we'll have more coming up like this.
Yeah, and I think for my use case, because unlike you guys, I don't use mine as a work truck or a tow truck, or I'm a pavement princess. I'm a Costco hauler. But one of the things I do use it for, and there's a couple videos on my channel, if you guys check those out, is I take the kids to the drive-in movie theater. And so I put an air mattress in there that's made for the back of the Lightning, or any F-150 actually. And all this stuff is on my links, on my descriptions. It has all this stuff. And when I pull into the drive-thru, that Putco light, which I love, is blaring bright. So I have to take painter's tape and a towel, and I put it over the Putco light because you can't turn it off. And so having this, and this is really the way, if you look at the light up LED from Putco for all the gas F-150s, it plugs right into the headlight, because that's the way it's really designed to be done. So this modification that kind of helps extend the wires long enough to work for the Lightning, because obviously the Lightning front grille lifts up in a way that comes without the headlights, which is different fundamentally from the way it does on the gas vehicles. So yeah, this is big. If you're, I also run it sometimes for my Christmas decorations. I run it sometimes, for powering the house when there's a power outage. And in all those circumstances, that Putco light is blaring, glowing, letting everybody around me know, oh, look, this truck is on. And, it's going to make people peek in the windows. It's going to make people, do all kinds of things I don't want them to do. It's going to annoy the people at the drive-ins.
Jace, did you put those on yours, or is your stock?
Stock. We thought about it.
Yep.
But just haven't.
Yep.
It just looks so cool.
It's a want, not a need.
Yeah.
You can see in my background.
More on tires.
Yeah, there it is.
Right there, the background. It looks mean when you're driving down the street, man.
I probably wouldn't have, because that was something I did on the 2002 Lightning that I had back in the day, the lit emblem. That was the thing. It was kind of kitschy in younger school, but I needed one anyway, and Ford wanted $190 for the emblem. The truck, they were broke. It was $250 for the lighted emblem, my cost. So I thought, let's just do that. Yeah, Lloyd made the comment. Yeah, I probably would do it for $50 if it was just soldering, but you have about 24 feet of wire you have to add. So I got to figure out how much that wire is. You add wire
Yeah.
and then the loom to cover it, the time. It took me about an hour to do yours, Chris, but you get faster at them as you go. But yeah,
Right.
if somebody wants to do them, buy those and build them up.
And
send them out.
and what I just did is I just went on to Putco's website and I did the ship date. I did the ship address to Martin. So reach out to Martin,
Yeah.
message him.
Yeah, if you
And so
want
I just
one,
shipped
send it
it.
to me and I'll do them. I can't do a bunch of them, and I'm not going to do them for free. We kind of
Yeah.
did Chris's to create a video, but yeah, if somebody wants one. So Jace, if you decide you ever want to put one on, we can hook you up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
I'll let you know. Yeah, sounds good.
All
Thanks,
right, guys.
Gabriel.
Problem I got to
Gabriel's
do
letting us
too when I
know.
do stuff. So
Yeah, so guys, leave your messages in the comments. 58 people on the live stream. Love seeing
Man, I
it.
appreciate it.
It's great to see this many people on this late at night. So I don't know if later is better for people. When we started off, it was like 4 people and then 17 people, 20 people, 58 people. This is great. So we'll do this every week. Hopefully you guys can keep joining us. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Put your reminders on so it'll alert you when it happens. Of course, Martin Rebuilds has just a ton of great videos. Bow Family EV, they're not great videos, but check them out anyway. Do me a solid.
Oh, they're great videos.
Yeah. So yeah, check those things out. We appreciate everybody tuning in, and fellas, I think that's a wrap. We'll see you guys in a week.
Thank
All
you,
right,
everybody. I
sounds good.
appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.